Yes, it is. It's Friday, the day we're recording. Welcome into the Soccer Mom Sunday podcast. I'm Jennifer Siess alongside JB Anderson. What's up, JB?
Hello. How are you?
Glad it's Friday. This is definitely one of those, thank goodness it's Friday. It's been a week.
I was feeling it as a fellow Gen Xer, given that it is Friday. I was like, this is like college days, high school days, throwing it back.
Oh, yeah. I had a hard time all week knowing my kids went back on Tuesday, which was yay, right? Last year, my husband and I went out day drinking after that, and that was not a good idea because we're like, I got to go get them and look like
carpool.
Good parents. Thank God we were in walking distance now. But we radio and soccer led to other things, so didn't do that, but definitely trying to get on. And nobody, we weren't the good parents who were like, let's get on a sleep schedule 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so the kids are like, it's 9 o'clock. They're like, I can't sleep. I'm like, figure it out.
Yeah, we tested.
You'll be fine.
We casually tested it on Sunday, and it was an epic failure. So
Total
we're like,
failure.
Whatever.
Yeah, can I come and snuggle with you? No, it's 11 o'clock. Good luck tomorrow.
Who are you? Ride your bike. So, we're back for another episode.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I am ready. I'm ready.
Stoked.
It's been a fun, busy week too on the business side. So I got one St. Louis City practice in this week. I go there and try to watch practices and maybe get a player interview and did get some good audio from Coach Carnell. But I only made one practice this week because I'm busy on the other thing I do is the mindset training for mental skills training for youth athletes. And, summer has kind of ended, which for some, they will pick that up as a good thing to do in the off, but some just want a break, which I don't blame them.
Right.
And so training has just begun with University of South Carolina, Fort Sumter.
Oh, wow.
So I do it on, it's challenging, but interesting to do it on Zoom. They're in a room, and we've done pillar number 1.
So, what's the connection?
The connection, actually, soccer in St. Louis. So, no way. So there are, Leah Hilsing is the coach, the head coach there. She is the youngest of 3. The Hilsings are Melville, Oakville, Delilah, her older sister, played at Duke, I believe.
Saying they're Southers.
Yeah. And so the younger sister, Leah, is over there and just kind of connections through connections, and they're mostly soccer connections. It's like, hey, you do this thing with mental training. I'd really like to offer that as, to my group. She likes to do a bunch of other things with her team, like, nutrition, fitness, not just touches on the ball, but team building. And it's a junior college. So she's like, I got them for 2 years. I want to give them as many skills as I can besides soccer.
I mean, that whole, and we touched on it in episode 1, the whole pillars, right? The 4 typical pillars. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's the technical, tactical, physical, and then mental. We mentioned how the mental side is generally the 4th, maybe even 5th or 6th on the list of 4 that people tend to, and it's becoming, I would say, in vogue. For lack of a better term, because people realize, no, this is really important.
Yeah, it's behind, actually. So when you think of, when you go to any practice, you're going to look to see the physical skills of the practice.
Right.
Your soccer, you're dribbling, passing, shooting, both foot skills, fitness. Now we've got things that I never worked on growing up. There's no speed and agility. You see all kinds of things like that. We put them in practice, and we practice and reps, which is great. Then we put them into pressure moments. We put them with a crowd. We put them with officials. We put them with an opponent that we can't predict. And we go, hey, do the same thing under pressure.
Well, do you find it ironic, though, because you've been around the game your whole life, and in the capacity that you're in now with the team and the interviews that you're having, and then obviously you listen to our show and you hear the conversations that we've been having with really, really high-level coaches as well. Do you find it ironic that there's always an emphasis on character and locker room mentality and leadership and all these things that are purely derived from kind of a mental maturity for the most part, and so it's always talked about, but just now, services like yours are becoming, getting the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, and I think you don't see mental, right? I think it's a hard thing to think that you need because you don't think you see it until you see it.
Right.
So you see it come out in a missed PK when we can do it over and over. We see it come out in like a poor pass back, where what did St. Louis City do? Pick that off. These pros know how to. That's a mental mistake. These are mental moments, and we know they're there, but it usually comes out like, why did you do that? Or, you need to fix your shot. Yeah, but it probably started, in the 3 pounds of electrical energy between your ears. And we just don't spend time. And it's not because coaches don't care. I coached soccer for years, and I think there were mental moments I look back on now and went, oh, I coached that in a purely physical way that I could have inserted. And we know that sports psychology is not new per se. I would say it's been at the pros and it's been at the international levels for a long time. Where it needs to get is it's coming down. It's in NCAA Division I. It's coming down to Division III. It needs to get younger. It needs to get in high school. It needs to get when they're 12, 13. Puberty. when literally I think the new psych term is to call your brains are neuroplastic. That just basically means to me we're a little less stubborn. We're a little less set in our ways. And truly, I love working with like 16, 17-year-olds because they're mature, they get it, but you can already see some hardening, right? There's been failure. There's a little bit of like, but like 12, 11-year-olds, they're so open. They're like, yeah, let me give that failure recovery method a try. Yeah, let me give that.
They're willing to say, I'm sorry, or okay,
Well, there's that.
Like, let's, just we can simplify it. They're not that bad of teenagers yet.
My daughter turns 15 today. Happy birthday, Marin. And we're going to go for the driver's permit. And
oh my gosh.
I feel like she's pretty low drama. It's my 17-year-old boy who knows everything, by the way. If anybody on the show, listening to the show, needs to know anything, I have a boy who's 17 and knows it all.
Yeah, is he the Cliff Clavin of your house?
Pretty much, yes. If there's a nugget, he knows. He's seen something on it.
So will you be the one behind the wheel or in the passenger seat for the technical training, and then George will be the rules of the road?
That's a great idea, but I have a short fuse, so I'm not getting in there at all.
There you go.
What my specialty is doing is I'm driving, telling them to. I'm doing a rolling stop. I've earned it. So don't critique my driving, Georgie.
Earmuffs.
Yeah,
Close your eyes.
Yeah, you don't do as I say, not as I do. Definitely don't follow my example. Yeah. You got to pay your dues on the road, buddy.
So let's do this real quick. Episode 1, official episode 1, we had Bree on. Bree McCarthy.
She's fun. Isn't she a ton of energy?
She's
Lord.
Yeah. She's as our illustrious friend Jared Bertrand would say, she's a hammer. She's a straight up hammer.
Yeah.
Loved I liked how she was consistent in her experience, her personal experience, coming up through the Canadian national team system in the club world that they have, and then the transfer into D1 here, and then going abroad into the Bundesliga and tying it all into kind of the vision that she has as a coach, and the things that she's doing over at Lufuse, and sky's the limit for her.
And she's the reason that my program, Mind to Define, is now with the Girls Academy there. So it'll be starting, I think we're starting October 9th. I'll be training all 6 of their teams. And I'm going to be tired, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm so glad she believes in the mental side of the game too. She knows, right? And anybody who's played has those mental moments. I'm so glad that they want to institute that. It's fun to work with players one-on-one, but it's a whole lot better to get those kinds of ways of thinking and that speak, so to speak, across the team.
Yep. What do you think? You want to go ahead and take a quick commercial break?
Let's do it. You got to pay some bills.
Bring on our guest today. Looking forward to today. And I'm going to go out of our intro with a little bit more of the same because it's Friday.
It is.
You cool with that?
Thank God. Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back.
Feels good. Feels good on a Friday.
Got another one. It's Gen X Friday.
Oh, man, that brings you back.
Right?
My kids would say, that's so retro. And I'd be like, you're not old enough to use that word yet.
I got in a huge fight with my kids a little while back because they were like from Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, Dad, this music's so awesome. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
Really?
Where does it come from?
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Have you-
Yeah. If your generation can do anything original that isn't sampled from the 70s or 80s, let me know.
Well, I think I told this story the other day. It was Beckett, my middle, loves music, gets into a lot of different genres, and he came down one day and he's like, "Oh, Dad, you know Lauryn Hill, right?" And I'm like, Yeah, I know Lauryn Hill. It's awesome, but check out what I found. It's this version of her songs. It's called Unplugged. And I was like, by MTV Unplugged? He goes, yeah, it's awesome. I was like, okay, man. Thank you for keeping up. It's all good.
Quit acting like it's your idea.
So anyway.
So Jennifer Siess back here with you on the Soccer Mom Sunday. I always do it the wrong way. Soccer Mom Sunday podcast with JB Anderson. And quick shout out before we welcome our guests to the Oakville Sports Pub. I'm back in Oakville.
Yeah.
So I moved, my then fiance and I moved to Oakville like 2001. And we were here for 19 years and decided to move. And it's great. It's a great place to raise your kids, great place we grew our family, and just, since moved a little bit more central to a lot of the, soccer things that we were doing. Yeah. But the Oakville Sports Pub can definitely take credit for feeding us after many soccer games here at Queen of All Saints, Oakville High School, around the different clubs here, Kolping in the area, Scott Gallagher, different soccer games, or just coming from, the slice of fields where you're so far away and coming back and feeding my children and spoiling my children. So they thought they ran this place. They ran around here like they were some of the bad children.
Well, I see the virtual golf and back.
That's new since I left.
Nice.
So I moved out. We moved in 2020, like right after COVID market kind of opened up. And so driving back on Telegraph, I was like, oh, there's a Starbucks now. Okay, that's new. And then I walked in here and I'm like, oh, that back place where I often had my kids has got golf. They would love that, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has a little bit of everything.
Kids.
It's got pull tab, video poker, and virtual golf, and a grab arm machine.
And lots of screens.
Yes.
So you can get pretty much anything on here. So, since we're in Oakville, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guest, Sarah Guenther. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How's it going?
It's going great.
She's on a break right now, and then back to school.
Sweating.
So Sarah Guenther is the varsity head coach for girls program at Oakville High School. And Sarah, I remember when you were first coming in. And one big deal for me to know that our local high school, which at the time, figured might be my kids' high school, I had 2 boys, 1 girl, and 1 on the way, who then was a girl. And myself, my husband George, and Scott Hannock, who's also another Oakville. His daughter is at Oakville High School now.
I have Will in class now.
There you go. Yeah. And so we are part of Oakville United. We had just a small little club. I think we ended up making it to 7 or 8 teams, something like that. We lasted about 7-8 years. COVID took a big old hit with that to small clubs, but we enjoyed a really great relationship with the high school, with their AD, Becky Zupon, and particularly you. Like when you came in, it was so awesome for me to get the girls like literally on a waiting list so that they could come to your girls varsity games, be ball shaggers, sit in the stands, run your tunnel. I mean, they felt like as a little club, they were part of the varsity team.
Yeah, and we just adored having them. We miss it. We still do have a lot of involvement with the community and other programs and things, but it felt very endemic having like the Oakville United crew. And now a lot of those girls are my girls on my team.
Yeah, they should be freshmen, sophomores, and then they're probably, we did have a 2007 team, so maybe a junior or 2. I always forget where those birth years cross the grades, but yeah. So like seeing their pictures and knowing, I'm in contact with, once you're somebody's coach, you're kind of your coach forever, and so I have contact with many of them. I'm going to try out in the spring. I'm like, you should, and you better start working hard. You better be fit.
That's it.
Because I know Sarah. At least I got to know her, and she is fit, and she will most likely not ask you to do anything that she couldn't do or has not done.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, I'm now an older woman, but I still try to stay involved as much as I can and push them as hard as I can. I mean, playing at a high level, back in my time, I only have 1 year still, and I try to, infiltrate that into all my training sessions and in camps and all the things. And it's just fun to try to get them on board with that motivation, and seeing a coach that still plays with them, and I still run 120s with them as much as I can. I can't walk for 2 days afterwards, but
whenever one of them starts to beat you, is that when you pull out and like, you guys keep running?
Well, it's before that because I've already probably pulled something when we were like scrimmaging. But I like to see that. I want them to beat me. You know what I mean? I'm like, yes, they're beating me. Because I need that. I want that for their morale. But.
So when you came in, I remember, when Oakville hired you and they put, information out in the community, and we heard about it as well, and kind of gave your backstory in the game. Could you share it here with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a OG STL soccer player. I went to Seckman High School and played there. I was actually the inaugural freshman group there. I scored the first goal for Seckman, the first hat trick for Seckman.
You do a lot of first JV. Those can be among your first that you kind of say.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
And I was inducted in the Hall of Fame there. Maybe 2011. And then my club side of my life, which was really more of where I put all my. Back then, it was very different. The club world. I played for JB Marine.
JB Marine girl. Okay.
Yeah, I played for Len Sapicki. And Harry Amon, and then Mike Gavane.
Yeah,
so
I know the names.
My coaches throughout my tenure. I'm very close with Vader. And then I went to Missouri State and played there all 4 years. And I just got inducted into their Hall of Fame back in March.
Congratulations.
Hold on. Missouri State. What years were you at Missouri State?
01 through 04.
Okay. Jared went there. That's where he played.
Jared Bertrand?
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, I know him.
Oh, yeah. You're looking at me like, oh, my God, I know him. Is it a good I know him? Because we know him well.
So I know he would be at like similar parties with us. I dated the goalkeeper at the time, Matt Pickens.
Ah, okay.
And Matt got drafted our junior year to play for the Fire in Chicago. And so then he left. But I was hanging with Matt and we didn't really party that much, to be honest with you, which was good because I wanted to
Do you have dirt
perform.
on Jared? Or is there no dirt on Jared?
I don't, because I really didn't party.
It's all public record at this point.
I'm like one of those late bloomer partiers. Like I didn't really get into that scene till post-college.
Me.
So I was like, I wanted to be good in the soccer field and do well in my studies, and so I just kind of like was a goody-goody for a while.
Well, can I ask you a little bit more about the JB Marine days, because that's at that time
I hated playing JB Marine teams, and for the best reasons. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, because you guys were, there was a tenure of time in which JB Marine was, the kind of the pinnacle for the women's club side. Talk about some of the women that you played with at that time that, were either combative or inspirational, or that, just some of those memories to paint a picture as to who was part of that club with you.
Lori Columpney, she was on my team. Crossbar Columpney is what we called her. Crossbar Columpney. Yeah, I remember she was a phenom since day one. Becky Sauerbrunn. She was a little bit younger, but sometimes she would play up with us. Megan Mead also was an Oakville alum here. And Dee Dee Bauer was an Oakville alum here. Jenny Nelson. Let me see, who was like the one? Missy Peabody. She was Coriezu's head coach, so when they won the state title not too long ago. But yeah, I would say all those girls had different aspects of their game and that they brought to the table and helped develop, me and all the other players around. There was kind of a core group, which that was basically us, the girls I mentioned, that would kind of be like the foundation of the team. We were like always the ones that kept going. You know what I mean? Like a couple always kind of quit or they move on or go to different teams. But I basically stayed with that group till post-college. We'd play amateurs and stuff. And then Lori went on and just started, and so Becky did too. But
yeah, lights out.
I mean, we would just win regionals, win nationals. But the side of it was like us and Bush back then. It was before the St. Louis Soccer Club and St. Louis Scott Gallagher. And so it'd always kind of be a head-to-head with us. The other programs in the area, Coping Kicks, and it was Iron Kids, and it was Coca-Cola was a team, and Wolfpack United, and all those other teams.
So some of those are new. Some of those are. I'm a bit older than you, and there was actually, as I walked by and was passing some people here at the sports pub, there is a person here that was on my 12U or whatever 13U Colping team. So, Colping and some of those names are around, but then some of those other names, I think I had most likely aged out of the club scene by the time those newer names came on. But JB and Bush for sure, Colping, Coca-Cola, and then some of the other ones I've heard of, but weren't around when I was playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of those girls. I mean, I talk to Lori all the time because I actually help her with recruiting because she takes some of my players.
Yeah, being over at Maryville, right?
Yes, yeah. So we have a good relationship, and it's just fun to just, because we have that OG sense of what Steel Soccer was. I know it's evolved and everything does, but, it's just interesting to have that kind of background grit that we can talk about,
For sure.
So kind of a follow-up question would be that transition out of JB Marine, and maybe we come back and talk a little bit about high school in a second, but was there a measurable difference between the quality of your club team, your teammates, and kind of the level that you guys were playing at those regionals and nationals and really dominating, than going to Missouri State? New group of girls, new coaches, new philosophy. What was the compare contrast between those two programs for you at that time?
It's an awesome question. I had a hard time. So you go from I was the top player, on my JV team, and I'm coming in as a freshman. Okay, so I'm immediately underdog, kind of. You have to prove yourself a lot more. But I was a top recruit. I typically played more of an attacking role. I was a wing player on an attacking role, and all of those spots were filled. Mm-hmm. And so if I wanted to play, I needed to adapt and be versatile, which I tell my players all the time. Don't be one-sided in who you are, And I had a player last season that came up to me and she said, "Oh, my club coach, if you don't play me at center back, I don't think I'm going to play high school ball." I'm like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, why would you do that?
They better not be a former Oakville United player because they know better. Yeah. I train them. You're soccer players first, and positions come later.
Exactly. So, but I went in, and an outside back position was available, and I just owned it. And I used to actually go down with my boyfriend at the time, and he was a goalkeeper, and I was a field player. So it was awesome because I could just make runs, and I'd cross him into the box, and he'd use his training too, and we would just get better. And I ended up being Defensive Player of the Year like 2 years in a row, and owning it, and it wasn't like me. And then I'd come back to JB Marine in the summer and play for them, just like amateur leagues, and I had just accrued so much knowledge from that.
Because multi-position playing helps you play every position, and you understand the game better. Yeah. When you're a defender, and let's say you go now and you're an attacker, you might think like how a defender might work with this. And I think that this could be a little off topic, but you see it all the time with so many kids playing and so many more people getting educated about the game, which is great. We also sometimes see more like predisposed to this is where I need to play. And I had a similar story when I was a freshman at Lindenwood. It was, I did play 2 years as a targeting striker in a 4-4-2. And actually, I probably grew the most because I hated it because I was more of a straight on and I was checking back now and I wasn't really using my speed. I learned a ton. But then when Tim Champion took the program over for 2 years and I said, "Hi, my name is Jen Siess and I am one of your strikers." And he's like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "Oh my God, is he cutting me right now?" And we were just like in an indoor tournament at like the Jamestown tournament. Sure. One of those like just, where college teams come and just hammer one another. And he came to watch us and I thought, he's cutting me. And he's like, no. And he was right in his assessment. He's like, "You don't like to hold the ball. You don't like your back to the goal. You're really fast. Can you run the whole game?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "You'll be a starting wing midfielder." And I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "You can play striker, but you'd come off the bench, or you can be a starting wing midfielder." Well, I wanted to start and play all game, so there I was.
Do you
exactly?
Well, let me ask you a question along those lines. With kids in particular, do you think that the perceived education or the perceived soccer IQ of kids is getting a little bit part of the problem in so much that kids show up at the ages of 12, 13, 14, and they're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, I'm a 6
Yeah.
or I'm a 9
Yes.
or whatever.
I didn't think about the position number aspect to it.
Yeah, because, it's become part of vernacular with the game. How do you manage that with specifically the freshmen, sophomores? Because by the time they're juniors in your system, they probably know, hey, coach is... this is her way.
I'll tell you, I scare them.
Good.
I scare them. First day of training, I will have 80 plus girls sitting in front of me, and I will say, there's only 60 jerseys that I have to give out. So do the math. If you didn't do any of the preseason stuff that I've been preaching on since last year, and all the availability that I give for off-season training and all the things that we do, and you've been doing nothing, you're probably not going to be sitting here next week.
Because it will show.
Yes.
There's no hiding that.
Yeah, and in high school ball, it's such a different entity from club, and the freshmen especially don't understand it. The freshman parents don't understand it. But I get 2 weeks to take kids from the age brackets of 14 to 18 years old that are going through pubescent age, okay, and learning about their social lives and their social worlds, and everything's changing, to try to put them together in 3 teams to be successful. And I don't have time to deal with like, I'm a 6 and I'm a this and I'm a that. And I tell them that. And I even tell them too, I'm like, I don't want to see your club shirts here.
Right.
You need to divorce yourself from that, because that's not what this is. If you want to play in this program, you're an Oakville soccer player. And so I don't allow any type of club clothing after preseason's over. And I want them to feel like this is Oakville soccer. Like, this is not anything else. I don't care what your club coach's formation is or what he thinks you need to be in your position-wise or la, 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 la. If you want to play...
And you can't possibly do that.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no way you could take all those players from all those different clubs and try to make something that works for all of them so everybody's happy with it. You can't do that.
Cannot. And I used to be scared of the parent emails. Now I'm like, okay, bring it on.
How long have you been at Oakville, remember?
18 years.
Whoa.
And I've been coaching for 18 years. I've been head coach for 6.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question about parent interaction, because on the other side of our podcast coin here on Soccer Dad Pod, we had Dave Ehrenberg from Ladue High on. He told us the story, and it made national news, where the parents sued him because he cut the player.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that was.
We have to do
here.
different protocol because of that.
Yeah. So my question is, what's your parent sue story? The email that really stands out, that kind of is indicative of what you as a coach at Oakville, like any other parent listening, like, holy shit, I'm not going down that path. What's a story where it was just cross the line and here's your position?
Oh boy.
Or are
I've
there
got
too
a lot. No, too many, but there's definitely one that stands out. So, everyone thinks their kid's the best. You're going to want to think that. And if your kid's a really good player, there could be. But it's, again, one of those things where high school ball is a completely different entity. Your club season, you've been playing with those girls, you know that your formation, you know your back line, you know everything that's going on. You come into high school ball, and even if you were to play the same position every single year, it's going to change. All the players around you are going to change. You could have the freshman 15 happens to the girl that peaked her freshman year. There's so many variables that go into changing what's going on in the program. So I had a dad one year that freshman year, his daughter was playing freshman team, and I knew of her. She came to my camps. She was very good. I was excited about having her. And being a female soccer coach, and which is rare, as a head coach.
Still too rare.
Still too rare. I agree. He approached one of my assistants to talk about what was going on at our tryouts, and because thinking that was a head coach.
Was that first strike?
That was first strike. Yes.
Went to the man coach.
Yeah, went to the man.
Which happens a lot too
so much.
with officials.
Oh, I laugh.
It doesn't happen in my house. Yeah, I'm after the cats. So
well, we have fish, so
they would probably win in my house too.
but yeah, just approached him, and you could just tell the body language. I wasn't close enough to the conversation to hear what was being said, but I could tell it was kind of heated. Like, what's going on? It's like second day of preseason.
Oh my God.
And the way that I run things in my preseason is I keep the freshmen together for a couple days. I don't just because I saw you in camp and you were good, you're already going to automatically be up with the JV maybe or the varsity. So, I want you to prove yourself with your peers. And so anyways, that's what the conversation was about. His lovely darling is the best player ever to grace the halls of Oakville, which was verbatim what he said to my assistant coach.
Wow.
And
I engraved that somewhere.
Yeah. And so,
Just write the name on this whiteboard.
I will. But so it ended up being a very interesting 4 years. Let me just say that. But that was how it all started. And there was a point in time where people had to be kicked out of games. And it's just like banding the child against us because we weren't doing what she did with her club teams, and we were always wrong, and our formation was wrong, and passing to certain players and being, selfish with the ball and just everything.
And this, to be honest with you, is where I often will get a player, whether it's this, like a high school player, it could be a club player, but when they're stuck between, JB, are you trying to order a beer?
Well, I'm going to order a beer. Would you like one too?
No, she probably can't.
Okay,
but I
yeah,
can.
sorry.
She got to go to school.
There we go.
So I often, it's not unusual for me to work on mindset. I've just kind of been, I love it when the parents will reach out when they're like, we don't feel like
Yep.
we are the right person to help her because we've got some skin in the game, and I've had players like trying to, and I've literally had two players at the same high school, and one was deciding to play, and I know it's a little bit of a different time, but one was just, they're both trying to figure out where should I go, and one decided one way and one decided the other, but what I loved about it was that they had parental support, and what I hate about all of this is when the player, who honestly, I don't know, Sarah, how you feel, but I feel like even the hardest player you hear about, like, oh, this player's really tough. It's not. They're not so tough. It's when they're stuck between parental or grown-up drama.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's coach, whether that's parents, whether that's somebody else. When they get stuck, it is so hard for them, and it can break them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
it can break them.
Do you have like a code of conduct for the parents, theoretically in writing? I mean,
we do. I mean, we do as a...
Does anybody read it?
I say go over this when we're in the parent meeting,
Sure.
if they do or not. But yeah, we do have to have one just for, dotting I's and crossing T's. But
have you seen over the years, much in line with, we were talking about kids' soccer IQ being somewhat superficial with numbers of players and positions and all that stuff. To a degree, parents are also getting or gaining soccer IQ with the popularity of the game, City SC and frankly FIFA. There's a lot of parents now that we're gamers that are knowing it. Is it getting easier, or is it... are they getting worse because they think they know more?
I think it's worse because the information that they're getting and gaining is, and it also depends on if they were a player or not.
Mm-hmm. That's the question, though.
Yeah.
What's harder, to have a player whose parents are largely ignorant of the game because they didn't play, or you got one or two parents? We've seen it on the U.S. men's national team. Both parents played, and and we all have opinions about. I mean, when my daughter runs in a left or right wing mid, that's my spot, right? And so when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, yeah, inside I'm thinking, you should be doing this, should be doing this. But should she? I don't probably I know the game, but I don't know this game. I don't know what her coach wants in that point in time and what her team needs. I wonder if that might be harder to
But the
coach
difference is you at least are cognizant of that.
It's taken a few years.
The problem is the parents that aren't.
Yeah.
So they think they know all this stuff, and even if they were players or not, they, it's that drive home from the game conversation.
There you go. There you have it.
That is either making or breaking them, and it's, oh well, this is what you should have done, and I watched this YouTube video, and I did this when I was your age, and this, that, and the other, and maybe this is new, and they need to figure out those problems themselves and actually have those conversations more with their coach, or you know what I mean, if it's something that needs to be talked about. But I would rather almost have the parent that was the ignorant parent, that instead of the one that just thinks
My
they know
favorite parents to
everything.
coach were the ones who said nothing to me,
Yes.
except
Yes.
They just
thank
love
you,
their kids.
bye.
Yeah, thank
They
you.
just wanted their kids to have a
See
good
ya.
time.
And they weren't the fake, like we know nothing and we have nothing in this, because I had one of the worst was the kind of the prophesizing that and then they were actually a problem. But some of my favorite parents were the ones I like, just gotta wave,
Yeah.
gotta see ya. And they were my favorite, and I felt like they, if they had questions, they were legitimate questions, and they didn't grab me in a parking lot or while I was getting my own 4 children into, because we all have lives, right? And you have your own little.
Well, I've had altercations in a local bar down the street from a parent.
Not this bar, not sports.
Not sports pub, definitely not. This place is amazing.
Colleen would not put up with that.
No, at one down the road, but because I didn't start as kid. And just
I mean,
That's why I stopped coaching.
Yeah, but realistically, how do you handle that though? Because it's not going to stop. Like again, I see this as an opportunity, almost like this is a PSA. You as a coach for your program, because there's going to be your players and parents that will listen to this. What's your mission statement to them as far as like how you expect, because you clearly talk to the girls, you tell them what you expect from them, and then you make them do it.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it, they're one of those 20 that don't get the 60 jerseys, right? What do you say to parents? Like, what would you tell parents? Here's what you expect and how we can all thrive.
I think they need to start having more conversations with their kids about it before they come attack us, because the chain of command has gotten lost. And here's a perfect example. I've had a grown man father come to me in tears before a match because his daughter, goalkeeper, didn't play and didn't really ever play, because in goalkeeping, I mean, if you got
One
a stud
spot.
goalkeeper, unless you're up a bunch of goals or she's injured, you ain't going in.
Right.
And she was a pretty talented goalkeeper, but the girl that we had starting was their MVP from the prior year, and she was a stud. And he's like, my child, and she's never going to get seen, and all these college coaches want to know, and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, have you talked to your daughter? Like, is she unhappy? Because to me, she doesn't seem like she's unhappy, like she's having a blast. So then fast forward, I have the conversation with her, and I'm like, are you not having a good time? Like, is everything? And she's like, oh my gosh, I love it. I'm having the best time. And that's the thing, is they don't have a conversation with their own children. It's their own pride that they can't overcome. They don't want to be the parent that's sitting in the stands when their little darling's sitting on the bench. And they're the ones with the problem. It's not their kid.
No,
Yeah.
It's them.
parents look at that starting lineup and they see the last name, not the first name.
That's right.
Well,
That's
here's
exactly
another
right.
thing that's evolved that I think we forget about. Back in our time, we didn't have the social media we have now.
None. Okay, my kids are still
Right.
like trying to.
We had rotary phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's a part of people's, put out there. It's like you want to be like the Joneses. And so, my kid starts and plays and they're committed here and they're doing this and they've got all these goals and all this wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then it's like the other parent that doesn't get all of that media and their kid's not on the starting line. Their kid's this and the other. So then they're sitting in the stands like, why am I not standing there filming my kid right now on the field? And then they have problems with it.
Right.
So there's that problem we got to deal with as well. That just, is just a part of life and things changing. But
There's a fun, like, I remember saying it one time and I was like, I should trademark that saying or whatever you call that. It said, was just talking probably in a pub with just a bunch of people and said, if a parent,
Some strange
place, probably here, if a parent is burning more calories than their athlete, worrying or working on this, when they're pacing on the sideline, then you're doing it wrong. If we are doing more, and here I started to get really, I guarantee if I had my iWatch on, it'd be like, hey, you need to like take a breath. But if we're into it a lot more than our kids, we're doing it wrong. And I've had moments where I've realized like, oh, wow, I'm a lot more invested in this moment than my child at this time. She's 7, relax. I know she just took a volley and it looked sweet, but I'm not going to call Lori Kolutny and ask her to come out and see her right now. Like, let's take a pill. So that's an 80s saying.
There you go.
Let's take a pill. So I just find like when, and I do get them too, Sarah, on the mindset. I'm not coaching the game anymore that way, but kind of the game. And it doesn't matter the sport, but I will have lovely, lovely parents. And then they'll offer to also, with my mindset, send me all the video, and they've cut all the highlights. And I'm like, dude, she's 13.
Yeah.
We don't have a career yet. There is no career. And there will be nothing I trained a team, a high school, not Oakville, here in St. Louis, our varsity player, probably their most promising varsity player. When she was done as a senior, she was done. She did not want to go play in college. She was done with hearing it from one of the parents. She couldn't take it anymore. And that's what's ahead of some of them if we're not careful, right?
Yeah. Well, in the path too, like I used to not talk to my parents about like post high school, what are these kids going to do? Where are they going to go? But the problem now is everyone already is putting that bumper sticker on the back of their SUV for the D1 school that their kid's going to play in.
Right.
So what I like to do now is give my parents the quantitative facts of the rarity that your kid's going to play D1 ball. So I'm like, only like 4% of high school athletes in the school are going to play D1 and college ball. And then 1% of that are going to play D1.
Yeah, and Wendy Dillinger, she's moved since from Lufuse to St. Louis Development Academy, and she played very, very high level.
She went to Rush, didn't she?
Oh, was she with Rush?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got that wrong. So Rush. I do like when we had one of the parent meetings early on when I knew of her as a player. I was a little older than her, and I played her in an indoor tournament, and she does hit really hard, just so you guys know. Dude, I went to those boards. But she said something really great at the time. She's like, it's about fit. You can dream D1, and as a human being, you may hate the D1 experience, where the different Ds, the different levels, find your fit. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just means the level and what you do may not be what you want to do, and that lifestyle that you live as maybe a D1 versus a D3 versus a whatever, really needs to be a fit, or you're going to be in misery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
How do you manage that process? Because kids come in with both personal and parental expectations when it comes to pathway. Do you address it up front? Is it a after the fact or as needed conversation?
So now that I've been head coach for 6 years, so now I've seen one full group through, and I'm about halfway through with a few. I, at the freshman level, will say, listen, if you are aspiring for your child, your player, to end up playing post-college, I want to know their plans. The other thing is high school ball is not really seen as the pathway for recruitment anymore. It's more with the club teams, which has kind of taken a little bit of the, anxiety for me when it comes to like that process off. Because
that's interesting. Yeah. Anticipate you'd say it that way. I didn't think about it that way.
Well, of course, I want to help these girls, but they put more eggs in their basket with their club team when it comes to being recruited. They're seen more there. And it's from the other side of it. No, not really a lot of college coaches contact me anymore to come to our games, unless we're going to like a showcase. Like Parkway Showcase was one that we've had the past few years. It's been awesome. But they now have folded that one. I don't know why, but it was really the only main way that a bunch of college coaches in one sitting could come watch the girls.
Yeah, because they want to kind of like get bang for the buck. If we're going to send people there, come look, I want to see a lot of players at one time.
Yeah, but because recruiting's expensive. It really is.
Yeah. And I have Huddle, and I use that. And if a girl wants me to cut her a video, I can just contact Huddle, and they'll do it, and it's wonderful. But a lot of the times they're using it with their club teams. But what I try to do now is I tell them they need a voice with me if they're wanting to be a college athlete. And then, I'll give them my perspective of what level of Ds I think, or JUCO even, that they need to maybe go apart and be a part of. Because let's be honest, what's the whole goal of this girl in the end? Is this girl in the end going to be a pro soccer player? Or she probably need to, get a really good education and go on and start her career and do that and this and that and the other. If you think about the whole of the group, what percentage are actually going to go on and play pro? So then these parents have this mindset of, well, what's their thoughts? Their thoughts are, I just either want that bumper sticker because I want to be able to, be cool in front of my friends that my kid plays D1. Or is it, do I want my kid to get a good education? Or do I want my kid to play a lot when they play in college? Or this, that, and the other. And I guess having those conversations with them early on helps me understand which path would be best for their kids. And I'm not afraid to be honest.
Well,
You know,
Okay,
No,
so-
I've heard that about you. I like that.
So
I like it.
let's
Yeah.
assume there's 20 girls that are roughly in that varsity pool out of your 63 teams, right? Of the 20 today, how many would you say come to you to have that conversation, and how many do you wish would come to have that conversation with you?
This past year, I had about 10.
Half the team.
Yeah, about
Okay.
half the team.
Is that number reflective of a group, or the number that you think had that potential, or was it overreach, or do you think it was some were
No, I think more
underserved?
could have done it.
Yeah.
It was underserved because I have constantly off of field level and all these different, coaches like blog software that I use. They are in need of players everywhere, and I'd be like, I'd get one from, we need a GK at the, the D3 level here. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this one girl would be so perfect there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like she already committed because she wanted to go here because it was a bigger school and it was more fun and la-di-da-di-da. But, she's not getting a soccer scholarship and continuing playing the sport that she loves. And I could have pushed her in that path. And so there's a lot of regret because I wish some of the players would just own up to and the parents, not just the players, but would, instead of just put into their minds that they need to play at this level, or when they, again, around their peers or in social media, everyone's committing here, everyone's committing there. It's more being like, well, what's important here in the end? Do you love this sport so much that you can't see yourself stopping playing? And I mean, you can still play intramurals, and a lot of girls get closure from that because they still play that.
I hear intramurals can be really competitive.
Intramurals can beat the teams. They will scrimmage them sometimes and beat them.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that that's like a junky little, group to be a part of. I'm just, but they're not getting their college paid for.
Right.
Right.
And they could have. And
I almost feel like, so don't say I never used my master's degree, industrial organizational psych. There's a concept you talk about called an RJP, a realistic job preview, right? And so it's like you try to get businesses to really show a potential person that's going to come into the role, like a day in the life, a week in the life of this job, so that we retain, right? We have retention. And wouldn't that be great if on the college levels, you and I know every college is a little bit different, but like, what does a day in the life of a D1 athlete look like? What does a day in the life D2? You still great what does that look like? And I do know of, there was a gentleman I met in St. Louis whose kids are all older now, but there's a book out, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's like top 40 colleges you should look to or something. And his kid was, good enough to play at a D1 level, but after kind of going through and meeting, decided on, I think, D3. And he's like, I said, how did he? He goes, he loved it. That experience for him, he did not want. Turns out he found out that even though he could play, the kind of life that you lead, and only at 18 years old, you're starting at 18 years old, you're barely an adult. You can't even drink here in Sports Pub with me right now. You can't do it. And here you are, and leading a literal, almost like a pro level-ish job.
Oh,
And I didn't play NCAA Division I, so I only know what I hear. But that, it's got to fit the person. And then what do they want to study? If that degree is really demanding, like a medical degree or something else, that's a whole different level. It's really like that level. And I also agree with you, Sarah. I don't know that is the child speaking, or is it parent speak through the child? And that's the children kind of, we do. I mean, my 4 are all different, and they all have strong personalities, but I'd be lying to myself if I didn't say that I didn't have some influence on that. And I constantly check in with that. The girl who just turned 15 today, who at the moment says, I want to play for the U.S. women's national team. And I'm like, yeah, go girl, but you don't have to. Like, I want you to know that you don't have, I'm going to cry. You don't have to do that for me. I mean, I didn't. I wasn't good enough to do that. But you don't have to do that for me. And if you ever decide that you don't want to do that, we change it. I want you to know that. And she's like, yeah, Mom, whatever. Can you buy me something for my birthday? I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, hopefully that conversation rings true one day.
Well, you're a rarity, because I wish most parents would have that conversation or say the exact phrase to their kids, because they don't.
And I think it's taken time, though. It's taken, there's definite, when they first started, Sarah, let me just paint you a picture. I was at Queen of All Saints, just down the road here. And I had my oldest, who is kindergarten, on their little kindergarten fields. He was playing. and I use the phrase playing lightly. He was picking dandelions and doing Thor hammer moves, not Bertrand hammer, like Thor hammer. And he was playing. My daughter Marin, who's now 15, was like 2 or 3. She was chasing around the concession stand truck so much that I thought they're going to hit her. The concession stand truck that will come to you, JB, and deliver your beer.
Love it.
You love it. And then I had my now 12-year-old Liam, who was a baby on that baby Bjorn carrier. And my husband, who was gone, refereeing MLS, said, would it be awesome? Would it be awesome if you could tape Georgie's game so I can watch it when he get home? Like, I hate you. I hate you. And I was at that moment. And when I realized, because he was an athletic kid, like around the house, but he got there and he sucked. He sucked so bad. And like all these other boys are like kicking the ball, and Georgie's like, hey, tra-la-la. And I'm like, what? We couldn't play the volume to, because George watched back the video, and I'm like, why do you have it on mute? He goes, Georgie, hey, go find something you're ready. Unmute. There's a point where I'm like, what are you doing? So I don't want to paint myself as a saint because I have been that parent.
Oh, I have too. Believe me, I have a 6-year-old son that decided now that soccer, he does not like it anymore.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he's playing football.
Okay.
Does he love computer programming though?
He does. He is like a Minecraft specialist.
Oh,
Not gonna
run
lie.
with it. That's AI.
It's a degree
But,
now.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
know.
a whole degree. So
I just want him to like sports, but I've been there too.
yeah,
I've been there with
that
him.
moment where I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting worked up with a baby who's now upset because he's on me wondering why mom is so pissed off. And a 3-year-old that I keep telling him, leave me alone, or here's a freaking $1 for your stupid concession stand truck. Is that guy drinking beer? Because he's going to hit you. And then my 5-year-old, who is the worst, he ended up being a pretty good player. He's since done playing, but he was pretty good. But he was the worst player on the field. And do you know what? I was embarrassed. He was not embarrassed. My kids were not embarrassed.
No, I
No
mean-
other parents cared. But in that moment that I'm embarrassed about, I did. And that was, I'm glad we could mute it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you need a quick break.
I do. I'm going to get another beer.
We're going to quick refills here at,
Yeah.
What?
where are we?
Oh, we're at Oakville Sports Pub.
Oakville Sports Pub with Sarah Guenther.
Yeah, Gunther.
We're going to take a quick break.
All right.
Be right back. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right.
Oh, man. There you go. Here's a,
You like this one?
Soccer Mom Sunday song.
Kind of like Fiona Apple-ish, like that.
Very, very, very close.
Vibey.
It is Bjork.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Silent
man.
J.
There's a name.
Yeah, this one kind of inspired me a little bit. Just the title of the song is called Human Behavior.
I almost would have accidentally said cranberries with the lilts that
Yeah.
she has in her voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bjork, you remember her? The
I
little
do.
dark-haired, like, I'm super innocent, but
More
I'm
like
weird.
with bird costumes on
Yeah.
the red carpet or stuff like that.
Yes.
I love it. So we're back.
We're back on the Soccer Mom Sunday podcast
Soccer Mom Sunday, recording on a Friday.
with Jen Siess, JB Anderson, and Sarah Guenther.
Guenther.
Guns,
Yeah.
like guns,
Guenther.
like her arms are guns.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to some nutrition and
Yeah.
fitness stuff, which is your jam, which I love. Not only you coming in, and I'm always a fan of a female coach, right? And then they have certain focuses, and yours is nutrition. But before we do that, JB, I know you got some feedback on the first podcast.
Well,
Yeah, I wanted to have some attention, but wow.
well, I think the proverbial high school versus club versus everybody else, right? This whole conversation and debate, so to speak, has just really exploded, and I think in large part to kind of the way the game has changed structurally, especially in towns like ours, where clubs have always been around, have always been great, but there was a certain amount of synergy between clubs and high schools just based on the way that the leagues were structured. And then you compound the whole conversation and debate with what's been going on with the men's program. Mm-hmm. Missing a World Cup, is development right? Where should they be? Where's pathway? And now with the recently the Women's World Cup in the near rearview mirror here, and the way that the U.S. women's team, for all intent and purposes, bounced out way too early. So there's a whole lot of debate going on there. It's just a subject that, can't wait to get your take on this. But just out of the gate, I loved your perspective earlier as to how you approach your season. 80 girls are on a line, and you're like, look, I only have 60 jerseys. We're going to start there. Very black and white. And you also talked a little bit about how the clubs have started to take the majority of the kind of the club stress off your shoulders, in spite of the fact that you're willing and want to help more of them. Just give us your opinion as to the state of affairs, the relationship between the two, as it applies to your world today, knowing, you came from JV Marine as it was, peaking, and things have shifted. What's your 2-cent take on the landscape?
To me, it's become diluted. Back when I played, there was one age bracket per club.
Yeah, I know. There weren't
for
7
Marine,
divisions with 70 teams.
You played for JV Marine. You were
Right.
the only one. So
That's right. Same for me.
It lost that luster. It's almost like I had kids coming in and they'd say, "Oh, I play for St. Louis Scott Geller. I play for Luthiers. I play for Colton Kicks, whoever." And they had pride in it, and I want them to have pride in it. They majority play for their club teams than they do for me. But then it got to the point where it didn't mean anything anymore, because it was like, well, which level were you on there?
Yeah, are you Premier,
are you on
Championship, or down to Division 7?
Only that doesn't ever play a game? And so it's just it's kind of gotten to that point where anymore, like we used to even have it. Robin and I coached under Dave Robin for the first 10 years of my coaching tenure, and I, miss that man. He was the second father of mine.
And he really saw it all.
Yes. And he kind of had a, different perspective of the club world. But, he used to have a questionnaire because he'd want to know, like, do you play club? Because that was a big difference if you only came from playing, like, in your church leagues, or if you came from a club team, because back then it meant something.
Right.
Now it's just kind of like, well, whatever. Again, I don't even have them wear their jerseys or their shirts anymore. They're not even allowed to.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
And I think that it's actually, I know it's same but different, but when I coached, George and I coach, and Scott, we actually, the way we formed Oakville United was just 2 rival boys teams at Queen of All Saints. And it took us a bit to realize, like, you guys aren't, Coach Hannock, Queen of All Saints anymore, and you guys aren't Coach Gansner, Queen of All Saints anymore. You were one team on Oakville United, and it took a little bit to mesh that. And so I, on a smaller scale, but kind of the same. Also, I grew up in Fenton and St. Paul, and I don't know what St. Paul is in the CYC soccer world anymore, but at the time, we thought we were really good. And I do remember the debate and the frustrations when they started losing CYC, losing players to club, right? I didn't go to club till I was in 4th grade. I don't know if my parents weren't soccer parents. Maybe they were late to the game, or maybe it wasn't available. I don't remember. Mastercraft was the first team, so there you go. And it didn't last long, and we were coping. But it's like the same debate, but just a little bit different on a different level. That there was frustration because it was CYC and play for your Catholic school and play for city county, and now the clubs are taking, and it's kind of the same but different, maybe with high school and club.
I think the biggest thing we have to look at here is what's this end result. The end result is don't we want to just raise these children that are going to go on and be successful, whether they're playing a sport or not, but they need to have a path. And, if they're going to get it through being seen in their club scheme more, then that's their choice or whatever. But when we debate from club ball versus high school ball, it's just such an amazing thing to be able to go out and play for your peers, play for the people you've grown up with, that you've known forever, have pride in your school, wear that jersey, go out there. It's something that is so different from what you've been doing 90% of the time with your club teams. and it's happiness. So in the end, really, it's happiness, right? Because getting a career and having a family and being successful, and when you go to college, is you want to be happy. So it's like that's really the end result here is mental stability, happiness, doing things that you love. And not everyone's going to be able to go on and play college. And so we all these parents put all this money and effort into, club. We're going to do this. We want that bumper sticker, this, that, and the other. Forget about high school. High school is just going to make you drop your level. You'd be behind. You're not going to get seen. You're not going to get that, and the other. And it's absolute craziness, because then again, the kids are the ones that are hurting here, because then they have the pressure from their parents, like, well, these other players on the team are forfeiting high school ball to go play for the club team, and so you're not going to do it. And then it's like, well, are you already committed somewhere? Like, I've had players that were already committed and they still decided to go play for their club teams.
Right.
And it's like, well, what was the whole point? I mean, I get it, they're developing, but what? So the 4 pillars, right? And your 4 pillars: tactical, technical, mental, and physical, right? Okay. So, in the mental one is the most important, because it's the driving force of them all. And then to drive the mental, you got to have, the nutrition, and you've got to have all the things. And so in the end, it's like we're pushing all of this, crazy talk of what we think their lives are going to become, and we don't allow them to go have fun. I have so many girls that have forfeited, well, not so many now, a few that have forfeited playing high school ball. And then when season comes around, you should see their body language at school. It is like they hear the announcements of how we beat Eureka in double overtime, double penalty kicks last night, and it was amazing, and blah, 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 scored, and this girl got the assist, and they weren't a part of it.
Right.
Because of why? Because of what reason? Because they're going to go on and get a little bit more, maybe, who knows, development, or maybe they're not. I have girls that come in from club programs, and I can tell which club program they come from because of the way that they play. Maybe they're really good technically. They have that fast 1-2 ball, they can keep it on their foot. They're great. But we play full field, and it's like, womp, womp, womp. Because they don't ever get to train full field, because they probably have 16 other teams that are trying to share a field at the same time. See what I'm saying? So maybe they're losing development if they're sticking with one thing all the time. I mean, you think about trying to make yourself better at anything else, you're going to want to try to tap in here and try to get better at this and learn a little bit of that and learn a little bit of this. Well, maybe it's not the greatest thing in the world to just stick with one coach and the same players, and you're in the same position, and you're this, that, and the other 90% of the year. Why not divorce yourself from that? Go play for your school. Go have some pride. Go play in front of your boyfriend and your friends, and to get that camaraderie and that pride, and it makes you happy, which should be the end goal of it all.
Whoa, wait. So you're saying that kids are supposed to be happy?
What?
I didn't get that memo.
Not my 4. Don't tell them.
Yeah.
No, if you don't mind,
Please.
I love the fervor, because it's a very direct answer. It's a very direct response to what you're seeing in real time. How do you foresee managing that balance moving forward? Because the growth, the prowess, the power of leagues like ECNL and the GA, they're growing. We all see it in real time. The high school game, especially here in St. Louis, because we are a very unique marketplace. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade.
Actually kind of opened my eyes to that. I don't think I've really fully understood how. I mean, I knew it, like, where'd you go to high school, but I didn't really realize it was that unique also in soccer.
Yeah, when it comes to soccer, though, you look across the nation historically, the last 20, 30, 40 years, look, there's no region in the country, maybe Jersey.
Okay, Jersey
up in the Northeast.
Yep.
Nothing's like what St. Louis has done on both sides of the ball, men's and women's. And now with the growth of the clubs, my question to you is, do you think a part of it is just we've been spoiled because of the quality and the quantity of our high school experiences? And, you look at the Women's World Cup. We mentioned this just a little bit earlier. Look at the winners, Spain. Their whole system, their whole structure. Schools are not involved in that path, right? They literally took the men's program after years of being misogynistic and not allowing them to do it.
They're making some changes now.
They're trying. They better
need
fast. But their system is literally a silo. It's a path.
Well, even Julie
where's-
Foudy, I think, was just
Yeah.
recently on her own podcast saying, and I asked the same question to Bree, and I think sometimes when we think back, like I can think back all the way to Michelle Akers, that's how old I am, and then you think back to the 99ers who were younger than me, but still cool, is I think sometimes we romanticize how technically good those players were. I mean, they were ass kickers. They worked their butts off. They never let anything stop them. They had a different mentality. But even Julie Foudy was like, we never moved the ball like Spain just did.
Yeah.
So to your point, Sarah, like so much has changed. The game has changed on so many levels.
Yeah. So my question is really simple. How if you're a marriage counselor, right? If you put a different hat on, what would you do? What would you say to try and blend these two worlds here in 2023? With kind of the state of soccer in St. Louis first. Well, where would you start?
I would say, we need to try to be on board with the club coaching staffs. I mean, it's gotten to the point where the phrases I hear from the girls that the club coaches are saying about high school ball, and just downcutting us and saying, oh, well, you're just going to, lose touch on the ball and you're going to lose your fitness and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I don't want you playing a certain position so you lose your development and all these things that are being said. It's just slander basically on our part. And then it's like in the marriage counseling, it's like the baby daddy's talking bad about the baby mama and the kids got to get mental training. And that's what's going on here. The kids got to go to counseling because they're talking bad about each other. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, I try to refrain from slandering their club teams, but if, they're doing certain things and I mean, they're saying certain things like, I'm only a center back. My club coach only wants me to play center back. I'm like, that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. I mean, and they get so just crazy anxious about it. And, I put a girl who was playing center back for me this past season. We weren't generating any attack. And so I'm like, I need you to just go in the middle.
Go score goals.
Just get up there. And she just looks at me like craziness. And I'm like, go. And she did it. She was like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
Probably made her a better player too.
And I'm like, why? I wish we could all just have a conference and be like, listen, if you want your kids to be better when they come out of the 3 months that I have them, then you have to stop having this slanderous, talk about us and the body language that you say about us. I mean, in the end, if they're going to end up choosing to play for us, we might as well try to compromise something.
Okay, I'm not saying we should do this. I'm just going to throw this out there, and I don't have time for it. But
Yes.
Is it systemic? Meaning, is it Missouri? Is it so hard? And I don't know how it is elsewhere. I'm thinking of the clubs, and I'm thinking of Misha, and I'm thinking of things that I hear sometimes about, like even our ODP, that it doesn't. These things are more fighting or against one another silos than they are, like you said, working together for the benefit of the player. And every player might have a different want or need. I'll give you an example of my own kid. Marin we didn't grow up in Kirkwood. I don't have an affiliation with Kirkwood. I love it. It's been great. I didn't play there. I played for Eureka. But I grew up in Fenton, and it was a weird time. And even then, I don't know if I honestly have a personal care that she plays for her school. If she wants to play for her school and she's like, I want to have that experience, I would be all for it. If she's said to me, Mom, I want to stick with my GA team because we come, the hard part is for the girls, they come right out of high school season. And for her team, they had like 4 weeks to kind of get their stuff back together as a team. And I would lie if I say it wasn't a struggle. It was a struggle for them to put that back together. But whichever way for her, for me, and like whatever what you want to do, I'll try to help you with pros and cons. Everything has a payoff. Like you said, like if you don't play for your high school team, you're going to hear on the announcements and you won't be a part of that. You have to be okay with that and say, my purpose is here. But then if you choose a different purpose, my purpose is here. And we as adults should be the ones, all of us, supporting that, I think.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. My question to you is maybe this. Do you think that, and there's a lot of facets to this question, but do you think maybe because of the success of the high school scene in our backyard here, it's given us a false sense of security, an unrealistic viewpoint of what is really going on in the club world, the academy worlds, etc. And speak to Misha in particular, because I look at, and I've had conversations with other high school coaches that are very open about the divisions and the districts. The way that it's structured, you could have, if I'm a college coach and I'm looking at your schedule, you could theoretically have 8 to 10 games that I'm looking at it and I'm like, those are throwaway games, right? How can I really evaluate your best talent if half the season is against, a school that can't get 22 girls to come try out in total? What can be done structurally within the high school environment to help maybe legitimize the process a little bit more and become more competitive?
Well, I don't know if you guys heard about the Champions League.
Just heard about it, actually, so I'm glad that you know, because that text was like,
yeah.
So can you help me with that understanding, because I just heard about it.
So my understanding is they're going to basically form their own little league, basically off of the top players that come out of high school. And so basically what you've performed in your high school season, it would qualify for you to be in the Champions League, is what I've kind of read it as when Kohler sent that out. He sent out the email to everybody, but I don't know much else from what the email sent, but from my knowledge, it sounds amazing, because then that will give the high school what it needs in that facet of, all right, well, if we're going to have colleges and we want them to feel like they're going to get something out of this, that way we can extract the players that are going to be the hardest workers, the ones that are going to be, prioritize the fact that they want to be seen enough to be a part of this league. And if that's the case and they make this league, then we'll play this really cool league, and then the college coaches can come and see that. Because the answer to your question about Misha and the districting and all that, I can see it from all perspectives how hard that is. When we did our seating meeting this year, because my district it's Jackson, it's Seckman, it's Fox, Melville, Lindbergh, and us, and Poplar Bluff. Okay. So,
from Cape Girardeau up to here, basically.
Yes. And typically we've been first seed, us and Jackson. Jackson is an awesome program as well. They're all awesome programs, but just the fact that, if you look at where they're at in the conferences, which now the conferences are off historic talent. It's not about your location anymore. So we're in the highest level. We are Oakville. Okay. And then with Jackson, the problem they have, like if you look at their schedule, they were like 13-1. Okay. 13-1, but who did they play?
Right.
Okay, but they were still contenders. Not saying that they weren't a bad team.
Are you saying New Madrid High might not have been that competitive?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you look at their scores, it was like 8-0, 8-0, 8-0, 8-0. So they're not getting, if I'm my college coach, again, I'm going to go watch an 8-0 game.
No.
But then us, we play an extremely tough schedule. We're
seniors.
We're 16-5, but with a really tough schedule. Every single one of those games we lost. They were on the line, and they were to either O'Fallon, who just won state in Illinois. You know what I mean? And like we lost to, who else did we lose to? I don't like thinking about those games. But anyway,
they're out of the memory bank.
They were all contenders, and they were top 10 teams, because that was part of my spiel when I tried to get number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But again, I understand that beef. I understand that concept of why would I waste my time to come watch a game when, they're not getting, they're not being seen underneath the pressure they need to be seen underneath. So I think the Champions League is something that we could explore, and do to try to change that and give a little bit more, oomph to our high school programs.
Yeah, no, I think it's great because, in speaking to so many collegiate coaches and really their recruiting directors as well, their biggest beef with any recruiting is really they want to simplify it. They love showcases. They love going to showcases when they know kids are at a particular level and kind of there's an expected parity to a degree. The high school has, with the loss of tournament champions on the boys' side and the Parkway Showcase that you just mentioned earlier, high schools are not helping themselves. The Champions League is just shifting in the right direction. But I think there needs to be more of that.
Yeah.
But what I really love most of all is like, you flat out said it. We need to work with the clubs. And if it's as simple as let's break bread. Let's have a beer and talk about how we don't have to disparage each other anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and I've seen it, honestly. I experienced it, actually, and on a different level. I decided my 9th grade year at Rockwood South Junior High, because 9th graders, we were combined at Eureka, so 9th graders had to go to their junior highs. It was weird. I remember I needed a break. I was playing on 5 teams. I needed a break. I decided not. I was very athletic. I was not a great basketball player. I was just a good athlete. Decided not to go out for basketball for 9th grade. And every day that I passed that coach who was a teacher, I got guilt tripped for not being a part of the experience, which sucked because I was happy to go home right after school and happy to have a break. And also then, concurrently on the club side that you have players. I've worked mindset with players.
Yeah.
One is a now senior, I'm not going to say where she is, who played for her high school and got really poor treatment by her, the coach, not the club, but the coach. That's the part of all of this that if I could do one thing and get rid of that, it would be that. Like, I have to believe that all those pathways and working together can just make it better for whatever they want to do, whatever they decide to do. We can figure it out.
Well, it's like you said with Marin going into the state cup, right, with their club team. You have a couple weeks to train to get back in gel and be good with all the girls on the team. Wouldn't it be better if I had a conversation with the club teams and I'm like, listen, I'm going to try to pat your back, you can pat mine, and let's not slander each other, and I'm going to get you going.
You just hit it on the head. I mean, theoretically, why wouldn't you be a tool in the toolbox for the club? You have a girl that might be playing at the ECNL level because of the structure of that team or the style of play. Let's say they are a massive possession team, right, and not a high press team, and that player is a 6. Well, maybe your system, they could look great as a striker, right, or something like that. You could go to them and say, hey, look, why don't we make this player's reel better? Let's show them as moldable and a good all around player. That makes way more sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was no question there, was there?
We make statements on this show. We make statements.
Yeah.
Screw questions.
I mean, that's what happened with me when I went to Missouri State. Like, I played always on the wing, and I was always attacking, and I never really thought of me being more defensive minded. But when you put me out at the outside back, and I was fast. That was my cup of tea. I was fast and had a really good shot.
There you go.
Yeah. And I could just run for days down the line. But now you're adding the defense in, and I would just let girls. My favorite thing in the world was making girls think they beat me, because I was fast, so I knew I could get after them. And then I.
What's lost on audio is you can't see her face and how competitive it is right now.
That was the most favorite part. I'd be like, "Yeah, you just blew by me."
Take a step.
That was a snarl. I saw a snarl.
Go ahead, take a step. Enjoy it while it lasts.
And then I just blow down the line, because who's going to think an outside back's going to get all these assists? And that's basically the history of it.
Well, and I think we all have to know too is whenever you do a change, right? If you go over to high school and you play and you come back to your club, whether you stay with your club, you're with your club, and you go into high school and you got to mesh into something that's got to be completely new, you will lose a step. Here's what I mean by that. I don't mean that you become bad. I just mean that you're coming back to a team you knew, but you haven't trained together for a long time. It's going to take a little bit of time, and you go into some new system, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And if we develop soccer IQ, and we don't just develop position players, all of us as a whole, they're going to get it. You might have a week of crappy first touches, or I think I belong somewhere and I don't, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out with time. And better if we're in lockstep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's shift it up a little bit.
Yes, I said I would. Let's do that.
Yeah, because we were talking at the very beginning, the 4 pillars, right? So that we could talk about specifically the mental side, Jen, that you really lean into, and you're helping more and more clubs and kids through that process. I think there should be a 5th
and
pillar.
high school, Sarah, just so you know.
And you're going to be on the ticket.
I think
immediately.
I think there's really a 5th. There really needs to be the 5th pillar, because we're talking, again, as a reminder, we're talking the technical, the tactical, we're talking the physical, and we're talking the mental. But then I think in its whole other silo is diet.
When it's the
nutrition.
base, if you go to pure Psych 101, you go to Maslow's hierarchy, and your basic, like none of that other higher stuff happens if the body isn't taken care of.
And apparently you know a little bit about that.
A little bit, yeah. I've been teaching
Guns.
about
We'd
the
call it
human
guns
body
for a
for
reason.
a really long time. Yeah, so as an anatomy and physiology teacher, and now recently a nutrition specialist, it's really changed not only my life, but everyone that I have around me. I tell my students this week, I'm like, listen, you guys are going to get really tired about me talking about nutrition because I can infiltrate nutrition into every single lesson. Okay. If we're talking about the nervous system, I'm going to get to nutrition. But the thing is, you're not going to perform optimally if your body's not performing optimally. Sadly, 70% of our population is overweight and obese in the United States, which, can you believe that number?
Are you telling me
I
that a
thought that
bag
was-
of
that
Doritos
sounds
before the game
low.
is
Yeah,
not okay?
It's definitely not okay. And I will have girls that will show up for an away game, and I'll tell them to bring a snack because maybe it's a far off game, and they'll have a whole sandwich from Johnny, whatever it's called. I don't even go to
Jimmy
the
John's
Jimmy
or whatever,
John.
yeah.
Jimmy John's, and they wonder why they're lethargic and they don't feel well, and their mental capacity's not there. So one of the things that I completely just adopted the past couple of years was just that. So I tell my girls now, like, we'll have meetings during preseason, and we just talk about diet. And if they want to adopt it or not, I always give them something that they can use as a tool. But the other thing that I do is, adherence is the biggest thing to, a diet. If you're not going to adhere to it, then
Right.
it's not going to matter anyways. So, how do I make people adhere to a diet? Well, I make it available. And that's what I do. So now with the funds that I get, and we got some donations from Oakville United, which is totally awesome, and we're blessed with. A lot of the money that we got from them, I put towards food product that I would always put in front of my players all the time. I made it an open door policy in my room. I always have, fresh fruit. I have fresh vegetables. I always have whole grains. I have, different types of power bars and things available for them so that they're making that choice and I can control it instead of making a terrible choice.
A vending machine.
And then their performance being terrible. Again, does the technical, tactical, physical, mental even matter if they're eating nothing? Because basically with girls, and I will give them a questionnaire. I'm like, what is your daily caloric intake? And they will be like, oh, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, and then I don't eat anything, and then I get to the lunchroom, and then I basically just binge eat because I'm starving, whatever they have in the lunchroom or their friends brought to school. And then I'll go home and I'll, take a little break, and then I'll nap, and then I'll eat this, and then I'll try to show up for a game. What? Okay, so
you're saying that makes your skin crawl?
Oh my goodness! Just watching people at the grocery store makes my skin crawl. I'm like, wow, you're feeding that to your family. But anyway,
There's like 14 more aisles than necessary.
Right. I'm like, none of that is unprocessed food that you have in your food in your cart. But that's a problem I have as a nutritionist. I just have that. That's what I see now. I can't unsee it. But if I want my players to play optimally, that's where I go first. And that's where everyone should go first. And not even if they're playing sports in their lives. And so
take a test on a healthy brain that's
Yes.
got nutrition behind it.
Absolutely. I mean, we've all had days where, we haven't eaten the healthiest, and then we feel it though, or we have days where we're gung-ho and we're going to get up and we do that morning workout and we eat healthy and you feel good, right? And so then when you do the things you're going to do, you do well at them. You do better at them than you would if you were to make poor choices. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, ding, ding, ding. When I thought of this like 3 years ago, I'm like, why not do this with my players? And so, the girls, it's second nature. We call it Tiger Fuel. And so everywhere we go, I always have a bag of fresh fruit. I have rice cakes. I have different power bars. I make sure I give them shaker bottles, and I make sure their shaker bottles are always full with water so that they're always hydrated. I make sure when they're in the hallways, they have to cheers with their shaker bottles, just telling each other, hey, I'm staying hydrated. I'm doing what I need to do with my body so that I can prepare to be optimal at my soccer game later or at training or whatever. And I've seen a huge difference in it. And it just, even if you like, I think about the fitness level, and what we do just fitness-wise, just with the training and exercise and all that. They're just killing it.
Yeah.
Just there are times on like, I used to have maybe like a fourth of them could make all the 120s. Now I have over half of them making the 120s.
And they can see the line. They see the connect.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I have a lot of girls now too that they have not changed their lifestyle since they left high school, because they're like, I feel fit, I feel good. My girlfriends are going down the line of, the freshman 15 when they get to college, and I don't want to be that, and I don't want to be that statistic that 70% of people.
I remember hearing that when I first got there.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's go to the other end of the age spectrum there, and let's maybe like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Just quick advice from a dietary standpoint for a young athlete like that. If a parent that's listening to this is like, I get it, she's going to help. If my daughter's playing with her, there's going to be a map. But what about for them? What would you tell them? Paint today, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or snack. What should that look like, even at a young age, for a highly active child?
Number one thing you need to change is eat clean. Get rid of the processed foods. It is appalling to me, the lines I see outside of Chick-fil-A, outside of Freddy's, outside of the places. And I get it. We all have really busy lives, and we have to get here, get there.
Concession stand
and
lives, too, sometimes it feels
like. But the media
yeah.
makes you believe that that's healthy food. I mean, it is appalling to me that it's chicken. It's not a cheese. Well, guess what? The chicken's worse than the cheeseburger. It truly is, and I can tell you why. We just don't have enough time. You know what I'm saying? Like, the media has made food is now our crutch. Like what used to happen with cigarettes, and back in the day, the physician would be smoking while he'd be assessing you. He'd be smoking on a plane, and now we know what that does to people. Well, food is now what cigarettes used to be.
Well, yeah, it's like they grab a headline like something's gluten free. My 17-year-old is gluten free. Mom, I'm like, look what else is in it. It might be gluten free, but it doesn't mean it's healthy.
Incredible burger. You might as well just eat a regular burger.
My wife's her rule of thumb is, if we can't pronounce an ingredient, don't eat that.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off that. So when you read nutrition labels, parents, the number one thing you need to look at is the ingredients. It's it.
I know,
really.
it sucks
it's
to do,
not
but
about
yeah.
the calories. It's not about the sodium. It's not about the how many carbohydrates. Everyone eats carbs. You need carbs. If you're going to go play in a soccer game, you need to eat carbs, okay? Or any sporting event. But you need to eat clean carbs, whole grains. Whole means it hasn't been stripped of everything on there that's the fiber. You're losing out on that. The further along, and also eat local and eat seasonal. Eat fruit with every single meal. I always tell my clients, eat the rainbow.
That's interesting, because a lot of people are afraid to eat fruit. My son, he was like, I got too much sugar. I'm like, no, it's fruit. Eat the fruit.
Your body can break it down so quickly, and it loves it. It's antioxidants. It's vehicles that help mobilize the macros. And so, like, if you're people who eat processed foods, here's the difference. If you're eating a processed item, you're not getting fiber, and you're not getting antioxidants. You're not getting anti-inflammatories. It's been stripped of all those great things. So you're still getting the macro, which is the carb, the protein, the fat, but you're not getting all the little vehicles that help it run. So if you do the analogy of a vehicle, you could give it crappy gasoline, it's still going to run, but it's not going to run great. If you give it the best stuff, it's going to run phenomenally. And so that's what you got to do. Every single meal should have all those components. It should have whole grains. It should have, and I'm vegan, so I take it to another level. I eat meat sometimes. I love it. Believe me, I would love to be, eat steak and all that stuff all the time. But I just know what it does in my body. And not to say that it's bad for you, but just in moderation. But you need to have antioxidants. You need to have, especially hydration. If you're not putting in, and not just water, too. A lot of times people think, I'm going to hydrate, I'm going to drink all this water. Well, you also need electrolytes, because you lose out on that when you become dehydrated. And so, mixing a little bit of, a electrolyte powders that you can get is good, because it stays away from, all the additives that are in Gatorades and Powerades and stuff. But there's so many things. I could have a whole conversation just on that.
What do you say to because I've come across a few players, besides working on the mindset, the parents are like, and she doesn't want to eat before a game because she's so nervous, she gets sick to her stomach. Is there wondered if I could get a quick and easy, you got a player who's like, it's a morning game, or I'm somebody who literally have a player who goes and throws up in a trash can before because can't keep the food in her belly. Is she eating the wrong things?
I wouldn't say it's eating the wrong things. It's just more of a mental mindset. I would say let her do the purging and then just make sure she's getting some nutrients immediately after that. I mean, the right nutrients. I would say like a slow burning carbohydrate. Keep a bag of rice cakes. Let her just, because it's something the body can process,
Light.
but it's going to be light on the body, bland things that she can get some quick energy back
Gosh,
into
it's almost
her
like when
system.
you have a little one who's sick, where they're
Exactly.
like, eat
It's exactly
the
that.
brat
The
diet.
brat.
Yeah,
Brat.
yeah, absolutely. And like, we always had oranges at halftime.
Yeah, I
That-
remember.
but-
You like to talk about oranges,
I
Jamie.
love oranges.
And I
Orange
like that you
slices.
like them thick or thin
And-
sliced. You prefer
thin. No,
thin.
I don't. Yeah, I don't like all that pulp.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm a pulp girl, but I like the fiber.
They're like boogers, though. Like when you drink orange juice
Delicious
with pulp,
boogers. Oh,
it's a
they're
glass
so
full of
good.
boogers.
Yeah, delicious boogers.
That's
Delicious
exactly.
boogers. Please put that in the description
Oh
of
my
this
gosh.
podcast.
I will.
Delicious
There you go. That's
boogers.
it. Delicious boogers.
Sarah Guenther, delicious boogers.
That's right. That'll be it.
All right.
But yeah, no. My handle for Instagram is Coach Guns, and
I
that's
found you.
because I
Guns or Z?
S. Yeah, yeah.
You're not guns.
No, not Guns, but that's because my last name Guenther. Everyone always called me Guns, Gunny, growing up in the soccer world.
Awesome.
So I just kind of piggybacked off that. But yeah, I love nutrition and teaching it to everyone as much as I can. It's a passion of mine. I do actually have a small business in it, but it's just so much for me to do everything that I do. But I love it, and I just want to enlighten minds so that they can be healthy, so that they can train their kids to be healthy, and we can just get that 70% statistic taken down a little
And
bit.
soccer's awesome, but that is something you can take forever.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys have fun?
I had a great time.
Absolutely.
And I learned some stuff about to eat, not to eat. Got to go
Yeah.
get some rice cakes.
There you go.
And some other stuff.
And
Fresh fruit.
if you do
Sure.
get around Coach Guns, you
Coach
better be looking in the rearview mirror.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because she's coming.
If I
She
see
is
you at
coming.
Chick-fil-A.
You should see her snarl. That's the only
Oh,
bad part
yeah,
about just
yeah.
audio is you can't see it. You can feel it.
So thanks to our hosts.
Thanks to our hosts, Oakville Sports Pub, who again fed my family for years before we moved away. I was glad to be back visiting with Sarah Guenther of Oakville High School. And I know you got till spring, but looking forward to seeing the team perform and hearing about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Best of luck with the fall kids.
Yeah.
Those high school kids. I mean, that's why you really eat healthy, right? So you can just tolerate teenagers.
I always ask people, how do you teach elementary?
Yeah.
Like, I just can't do that. But
Well, thank you. It was my
Yeah.
pleasure as well.
Thank you.
Loved your stories, Coach Jen.
Yeah,
That was fun.
that was great fun.
We'll be doing this again next week,
All right.
and make sure everybody gives us a follow. Right.
That'd be right.
All
Follow
right.
us.
We're on our way out here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.